Many people talk about the ups and downs of married life, but no one really prepares you for life after your spouse passes away. Welcome to Widowhood Real Talk with Tina, a safe place for widows, widowers, and their friends and family to talk about love and loss. Find comfort as you listen to honest conversations between Tina and invited guests who've experienced the loss of their forever partner. Share their stories of love, grief, and healing. You are not alone in this journey. Join today's episode and discover a wealth of resources and learn how to connect with others who are traveling the same path. This is Widowhood Real Talk with Tina.
Hello, Catherine. Welcome to the Widowhood.
Hello, Mother. Thanks for having me here on the Widowhood.
Okay. This is great.
Is it?
This is my daughter, Catherine, and we are wrapping up 2024 with a conversation with my daughter. Raw as possible. So
I asked for questions ahead of time. She gave my people nothing.
And I told you I don't do questions. So we are eating ice cream-ish and having a conversation to make this
Less awkward?
as possible.
Don't let your mother have social media.
There's truth in that. So, okay. So what do you think about your mom having social media?
So people have asked me before, like the podcast or like the social media account, specifically the TikTok and everything. And the answer bounces around and how I get there. But at the end, it is hilarious to see you have a social media account because you treat it like a business. And
That's fair.
And so then because you treat it like a business, there's internal for yourself quarterly review. There's how many followers did I have last time? Is this funny to put out for the next video? Am I allowed to make jokes or should it all be serious into the podcasts? And so, I mean, I remember when you had somewhere between like the 500 and like the 1,000 followers. And it was very much the like, should I quit? Like, what's the point of doing this?
Should I quit?
Should I stay or should I go? And so, you didn't, obviously. I mean, we're still here. And so, now, I mean, I don't know what the number is now, but it's definitely over 10,000, if not very close to 13. And
But which social media platform?
TikTok. Mostly
Okay.
the TikTok. The
Okay.
TikTok, I think, is doing the best out of all of them.
See, that's interesting. I think it depends on what you judge best to be.
Followers and views.
But it is hard to get followers on YouTube.
Yes.
But on Facebook, we have the private Facebook account. Mm-hmm. On Instagram, there's a lot of messaging going on in the
private.
background.
Okay.
Right, in private. TikTok, there's a lot of personal engagement.
And it's upfront. You can see
And,
that.
right, and with the podcast, people email me on the
Right.
back end. So I've
The
learned,
most public success or the most public
I guess,
interaction looks like TikTok.
right, it just depends on how
Everything
you
else,
define.
yeah, everything else that's, Wizard of Oz behind the curtain.
Right.
Yeah.
I
But-
just look at measuring them differently because in the private Facebook group, and then we have the Discord now.
Right.
Where people, oh my gosh, I never would have thought to do a Discord. I would have never thought to actually have a Discord. But some people that I met on TikTok, they were talking about a Discord and how you're able to bring all your community together.
Right.
So the Discord allows people on all social media platforms to come together in one space. There's a question of the week. People are sharing their parenting.
It's supposed to be basically, from my understanding, it's supposed to be basically just like a public Zoom. And so then whether that be over chat or video. But
Right.
to answer your question about like what's it like having a parent who has social media, it's funny watching you treat it like a business because it very much is to you. It's every video is, this is a 501c3, this is a nonprofit, like, switch your credentials. And so then it's just like, Mother, that doesn't need to be at the end of the video.
I don't do it all the time anymore.
Oh, okay, I'm glad you got
Anymore.
And so, yeah, so there's definitely this thing where it's like, you treating it like a business and you wanting it to do well, obviously. And it's just funny. Like, because I'm behind the scenes, I'm on the board and everything. So it's...
On the board of the 501c3.
And so then, like, very much like the legal aspect of it, the personal aspect to it. So yeah, it's just funny where you're like, my numbers aren't high enough, but then somebody else is like, I got a brand deal, and like, you know, like my numbers are great. So it's
Do you even look at all the content? Sometimes
I do. I may not like obviously tell you about it, but like I check in, I repost, I go to it, and you know try.
You
to
do
get
a lot
you
of that
the sharing.
on X.
Yes. Well, because I mean X, Twitter. It's there's like the jokes. There's like, what? I got 3 retweets. Like, send in the money. So, and yeah, I mean, like you said, how do you judge the fact that you're doing well?
And LinkedIn. There's
Right.
another place because actually LinkedIn has been good for connecting with other people to be guests on their podcast or for me to be guest on theirs. So that's why I say that would be amazing. That would be amazing to do a TED Talk.
So, but yeah, so then, like
that's a dream.
The ranking system for what quantifies being good at social media, getting like the joke stands, like getting 3 retweets on Twitter, like money. And then Instagram is like, okay, cool. Facebook, depending on what you're using it for, it very much is like, you know, family friendly. But then since we're using it as another form of like the business aspect of the social media, you know, having 5 hearts, like that's like, okay, people saw my stuff. TikTok and everything, your views to likes ratio can definitely be off. But, and there's obviously ways to do the math on it, to see, you know, okay, am I at 100%? Am I at like, you know, 58?
Oh, there's analytics at the bottom of a TikTok.
So, like you said, it depends on the social media. It depends on what you put out. If it's like a full video, if it's a meme, if it's anything that way. But engagement nonetheless. So, the short answer of what's it like having a parent with social media, it's comical. But it's also nice to see the growth.
Who's asked you? Like a friend or a family member?
Just bring it up. Like if people, because like people know you exist, and so they'll be like, "Oh, how's your mom?" And then they'll talk about the nonprofit or the social media aspect and everything, and then they'll be like, "Oh, well, how's that going?" And then I'll be like, "It's funny to watch a tax auditor have social media. I don't know what you want." The meme writes itself.
Okay, that's fair.
Next question.
When you think of your dad, what comes to mind?
Probably just like the overall family unit.
Okay.
And then if I'm forcing the thought, hunting, like going fishing and stuff like that. Yeah, just the overall family dynamic. Not one specific thing. It'd be like a collage, not a central point.
Really?
Yeah.
Do you remember going hunting and then Grandpa calling you and talking to him about where your hands were?
Oh yeah.
Tell me your version of that, like what you and your dad were doing before that happened.
Okay, so trigger warning, squeamish topic if you don't like blood. So, I don't remember talking to Grandpa. I don't remember all that. That would be like you telling me and then me going, oh yeah, that's probably likely. But as far as the event, I was there for the event.
Okay.
So, we were hunting, and it was...
Hunting for?
Deer. Yeah.
No, that's important. Whitetail deer.
Yeah. So, we're hunting for deer, and we were all good to go. And so then my dad took my brother and I because... time to go hunting. I mean, it's very normal for me to talk about hunting. So if I leave aspects out, it's because I'm just so used to something being commonplace.
Okay, so how do you remember how old you were the first time you went hunting with Dad?
No, but for this one, I would have said that I was probably somewhere between 13 to 16.
Okay.
We had this one deer. So helpful to note that it was during winter, and that it was
winter
cold.
In Pennsylvania.
Yes, and that it was cold. And so then it's very much snow on the ground. Think your favorite Hallmark movie with, is Stacy going to go back to corporate law or is she going to stay in this small town? So very, very snow heavy. And so we get the deer, right? Boom, the deer is dead. And so then...
Who shot at you? Dad?
Daddy did.
Okay.
Daddy did. And so then now it's time to gut the deer. You can't leave it full of entrails. You have to get it prepped for the butcher. And so then
Well, it also makes it lighter when you're trying to carry it out the
that
woods.
too. And so whether or not the real reason is weight or preparation, we got the deer. And so I don't remember what happened, but in the end, Daddy let me. And so then I think it was a mix of him.
You actually slid it
Yeah.
up? Oh.
So I think it was a mix of Daddy wanting it to be done correctly, and then him also having, the learning opportunity aspect. And so then it might have been a combination of, hey, can I? And then him being like, well, do it right. Or him doing the first initial slit and then me doing the rest.
Okay.
And so if you've ever gone fishing, you find the bottom opening and then you slit all the way up to right about where the gills are, 3/4 of the way to like where the mouth would be. And so similar concept for the deer, it's at the end and then up into where you would probably reach about like the chest cavity for the deer. And so yeah, that was really it. And point to point, and then you make sure it's deep enough, and then you scoop everything out. Well, now it's cold, so if you know how cold it is sticking your hands in the refrigerator or the freezer to go grab something, have it be prolonged there, and then now also have somebody tell you to stuff a turkey. Like that's like the dexterity that you need. And so it was cold, and the organs were out and they clearly looked warm, and I needed to continue what I was doing. So I asked him and I was like, hey Daddy, like, can I stick my hands in the intestines? And he's like, I guess. Like, he's like, it's a bit much for survival. We can see civilization. And so, yeah, I needed to take care of business. And yeah, so I stuck my hands in the intestines. No, nothing punctured. And it was just to warm up real quick and then get back to doing what I was doing. And if you're thinking, okay, well, why didn't you just have gloves on? Dexterity. And so then I didn't have
Can't shoot better.
that, or just like, yeah, so I didn't have gloves on for the actual gutting process. But yeah, once it was...
Give me the mouse cup.
You cold?
Yeah.
Oh.
I just ate ice cream. Go ahead.
And so then once that was done, then yeah, good to go. Carry it out of the woods and take it to the butcher. It's fun. It's a nice story because like obviously my dad is there and everything. And if you were to be an English teacher and be like, well, why did the author choose blue? The permission side, where it was just like, he's always done that, where it was like, hey, can I do this? And he's like, sure, as long as you stay safe. He's done that with pretty much everything, driving, everything.
Talk about learning how to drive with your dad. Black Friday.
Black Friday. Sure. So, to set the scene, I was still very new at driving. But
Did you have a permit or a license?
It was just the permit.
Okay.
So I was very serious about driving. In every state is different, but in Pennsylvania, you had to have so many hours, and I wrote down a book. I logged.
You had
everything.
A chart of
yes,
all the.
I was like, these are all the opportunities. Like this one I can drive. So it was a lot of driving practice, and it was Gray Thursday. Okay. And so then back in ye olden times of around 2010, Black Friday is Black Friday, but then a lot of stores started to see that you could get more deals if you made it early and then extended it to Cyber Weekend through Monday, blah, blah, blah. And so then it was Gray Thursday, and we're going to Walmart back when there were actually deals.
Now, let's be clear. Daddy liked to go shopping.
Yes.
I did not.
No.
So Alexander and I were home online.
Yes.
And you and your dad went out.
Back when what, Quibids was a thing?
Yeah, we were on Quibbits. We were.
And so then our grandmother, our mommy, she had set some money aside or whatever she was going to get
Mammy.
Alex. Yeah.
Okay.
She was going to get a TV for Alex.
And that's your dad's mom.
And so then that's why we went to get it for him. All the procurement.
I don't remember what y'all were going to get. Okay.
Yeah. I remember being a TV. And so then we're, it's heavy traffic, Gray Thursday, everything that way. And so then I'm driving and, we're safe. Everything is fine, And I was very much in the middle of the lane for the where traffic could be opposite from each other in the parking lot. So where it's like some areas will clearly have it defined where, okay, arrow for like which ways is opposite traffic. And then
But this is the Walmart parking lot.
We're already in Walmart. We're in the parking lot. We're going in between the aisles to find a parking spot or to leave, right? And so then, long story, I'm two in the center of the Walmart parking lot driving areas. And so then this lady is, frustrated at my bad driving as a child. And so then she like screams at me and she's like, get over, or no, she learned how to drive. She was like, learn how to drive. And then as the car is still moving, granted, it is like not enough to hurt an ant at
3 to 5 miles an hour at the
speed I am going. And so then he gets out of the car. And so then Daddy gets out of the car because he's in the passenger seat. And I don't know how he was like out and in and I didn't run his foot over, but whatever. And so then he's like, she is learning. And then gets back in the car and then looks at me and it's like, okay, but you really do need to get over it.
You never told me that part.
I didn't. I always include that in the story. Yeah. And so then he's
but you are slow.
He's like, you really do need to get over it, though. Like, you are causing an issue. And then I'm just like, I am. But yeah, I mean, like, I can be wrong, but she was more wrong. And so then, like, my daddy defended me.
Soccer games and your dad.
Oh, okay. Would fight someone. Whether I was once again wrong or right.
Did you hear him louder than you heard the coaches?
Always. And so, I'm going to question him. Whether he was just casually cheering me on. Obviously, he's higher up than me. He's at an aerial view, so he can see the field, and I'm seeing it straight away. And so then he's like, pass the ball to so-and-so. And I'm just like, and so then, like, I could hear him, find him in the crowd, look at him and be like, be quiet. And, I mean, everyone knew that, like, that was Daddy. And there'd be some people that would, like, be like, oh, like, she's getting upset now. And then he'd be looking at me.
Your teammates would say that?
No, the people in the stands, like, the other parents or whatever.
Okay.
They would know, and they'd be like they'd giggle. It was, like, a very casual giggle.
Because he went to every game.
Every game. And so then, yeah, and there'd be times where he'd be like, on the car ride home, he's like, hey, I saw that 13 was open. And I was like, but I couldn't see that. But I could not. So then he wanted me to break physics to pass the ball.
I never knew that part either.
Oh, yeah. And so then I think it was my game where he got kicked out of the game. Yeah.
And he went across the...
Oh, yeah.
Go ahead.
Yeah. So
he was yelling so much.
He had the opposite team's, like, county's, like, shirt on. And he just... Because it was just one of his regular shirts. So he had the opposite team, like, county shirts on. So they wouldn't have known. And so then he yelled he was either yelling at the game too much or specifically yelling at the ref.
And so he was yelling at the ref.
And so then he had, excuse me, said too many words at too high of a volume, where then the referee was just like...
They gave him a warning?
Yeah, I think legally, per the game, they gave him a yellow card. So since he got carded, he had to leave. So they told him to either leave the immediate game area or like for like the field, or that he had to leave like the actual campus. Either way you slice it, he did not. He just went across the street where he could still see what was going on and then talk to the security guard. And
he was still yelling from across the street.
He was like, as if I was going to leave. Because he was probably my ride. So, I mean, like, he had to stay.
I remember being at that game and watching that. I was sitting there with my chair and I was like, Mark, it's a child's soccer game.
It's the Olympics and it is life or death.
Ping pong, Christmas Eve.
Oh my gosh, back in where we had that little town, the timeshare?
No. Okay, that one.
That one?
I was thinking of Fornwald family Christmas and your dad ping pong table.
Okay, well, at the end of the both story, he wins. So, I mean, like, it's really just how much you want to dissect that. But if you're talking about the one where we were at the little lodge. Where
the timeshare before I went to Iraq.
Yeah, so that one.
That was a Christmas before I went to Iraq.
I just remember it was Christmas.
Okay.
Time. And so then I don't remember all the particulars, just that either either Daddy and Alex had hustled people out of a game, or that Daddy just won so many times Alex got mad. Either way you slice it, all roads lead here. Daddy won.
Daddy won. When you think of your dad and me, what do you think of?
Probably the legal aspect more than anything.
The what?
Legal aspect.
What does that mean?
Loving v. Virginia.
And what is that?
The right to marry, interracial.
Why does that come to mind first?
Maybe since when I learned about it. So I learned about it in like the dramatization. So
what made that important to you once you found out about it?
So I don't know when I officially knew about Loving v. Virginia, but when I knew about it, I think I told you every year, like, you got to post something. It's Loving v. Virginia.
But what is Loving?
Oh, well, it's the Supreme Court case where it enshrined or constituted the legal right to marry interracially, because Virginia had it banned at the time.
So that's Loving versus Virginia.
Yeah, Loving v. Virginia.
Okay.
Yeah. V is versus.
I just want to make sure someone that's listening may not know exactly what those terms stand for.
Fair?
Okay. Okay.
So, yeah, just the legal aspect. I mean, I know I'm talking about it plainly, but it's a fact and a truth. So, I mean, there's not much to do. If you want to get to the emotional side of it, I mean, South Africa, there are plenty of people that were born, air quote, a crime, or born illegally in that aspect. And so then, I mean, you guys got married in, what, 1989?
84. No, 88. 88. Mm-hmm.
So 20-ish years after it was legal. I mean, somebody was born in that time.
Right.
Like, somebody was 20. And then, you guys, yeah, because 65, I think, 1965 or 67. And so then you said 88?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so just about almost 20 years.
Wow.
The other thing that I think about is, I'm not going to obviously say the year, but, like, your guys' birthdays. Like, you guys were born within the 10 years that it just became legal.
Right.
So if it didn't have happened, that timeline was possibly never even legally to occur. And then I think about just, like, being all in the living room and just, like, being together and just, like, the Hallmark picture perfect of it all. And just the fact that, like, it was just, I don't know, I would say that it was peaceful and good and just, like, regular family life. And I don't know, I probably, many of people have told me that I over romanticize your guys' relationship to the point where they were like, parents argue. There's probably times where they fought. And I was like, yeah. And then they were fine. But
okay, so do you ever remember your dad and I fighting?
I do.
Which one? What?
I just remember getting loud, but then there being a way to get your anger out and then recoup. And I remember either you said it directly to, like, Alex and I, or you said it to Daddy, where you were just like, it's important to know that married people may not always get along, but there's a difference of arguing and disrespecting somebody and talking outside your name, and that it's healthy to see that and not think that, well, my parents never argued growing up. Everything was fine. Like, even if it wasn't a direct teaching of, like, this is how you argue with a spouse, and then this is how they're wrong, and then you move forward, you at least see that it's possible, and it didn't feel like, okay, Daddy was right about the fact that it's blue outside and that you were wrong because you said that it was cerulean, and then you just have to hate each other forever. You can acknowledge and then move forward, like the septic tank, all right? Like, first of all, tree roots were at play, so we have issue. We got beef with Arbor, but
the blaming of thinking you stuffed up the toilet downstairs.
I used the appropriate toilet paper, but either way you slice it, the
downstairs
the downstairs bathroom. In the end, to not be long-winded about it, you don't have to apologize, but Daddy would, and so then we're coming back home and. I'm coming back home from somewhere, and Daddy was like, Mommy was right, it does need to be drained, something, he looked at something wrong or he didn't know. And I mean, I don't know if you ever got an apology. Like if he ever told you directly, like, okay, like it needs to be drained.
No.
But he told us.
Oh.
And so like, no one has to. Like no one ever has to apologize. But to hear it is nice, and to see your parents, yes, be autonomous human beings, but still be the collective of like your parental unit, and to see them, everyone, especially now, at least with my generation and people talking about going to therapy or talking about others that have gone to therapy and dismantling this idea of like, generational trauma or the other phrase that I can't think of where it's basically like the generational trauma, but like sins of the father, like sins of the mother, where it's like you don't have to keep doing the same thing that your parents did. And so then, every generation getting better after that. And so being honest, like actually giving a real apology, actually understanding like what went wrong. And if you guys didn't know that you were doing that, it has a term now where it's like you can, being honest and being sincere, being vulnerable doesn't mean that you're weak. Like you can acknowledge that you were wrong, and that's okay.
There wasn't a term for it. I just wanted to do different, and I wanted to do honesty. I wanted to do communication. I wanted to have a sincere representation of what marriage and family look like for our children, so they didn't have this illusion that everything was perfect. That sometimes it's hard, but you still learn how to get through it. What did you think about when your dad took the job in Virginia and I stayed in Pennsylvania?
I don't really have any thoughts about it.
Okay.
Asking now would kind of feel like making up thoughts.
Okay. No reason.
Yeah, that you guys would be away from each other, and
Okay.
then never really. Only when you went to Iraq, that was really about it.
I was about to say, so what was it like Dad being in charge and I was gone? Or what do you remember of that? I remember him making, was it cheesesteak in the blender or something he was telling me about?
No, that was when my teeth were bad.
Oh,
yeah,
okay.
that was a survival tactic, not a he doesn't know how to cook tactic. He knows how to cook. I don't.
He made some good chili.
Okay. So Daddy knew how to cook. He knew how to cook. He knew how to make food. He knew how to read. Okay, if you can read, you can cook. Whether or not it turns out right is debatable. But yeah, it's not like we were starving. But what I remember was people kept giving us food as though they thought that he could not.
Oh, I went to Iraq and people from church or
Yes.
different people were bringing food to the house.
Yes. So like.
He took it.
I mean, yeah, like I do, unless I'm making it, like unless I don't remember correctly. I remember people bringing us like the casseroles or something. Like people kept bringing us food. Excuse me. And then he would make food and it would be like, what French restaurant did you steal their recipe card from? Because it would be something that we never even thought that he knew what it was. Like it's like when your friend uses a big word and it's like, oh, somebody got a thesaurus app, didn't they? So yeah. So the meal that I remember was like lamb. He just pulled out of like the memory bank. It's like, and now we will have lamb with like a fancy is like what is it called, Florentine potatoes or something, or there's what's fingerling
Okay.
potatoes. It's like we'll have lamb with fingerling potatoes and sauteed. Like it was just like super fancy. It was like hot dogs one day and then it was like lamb.
No, hot dogs and pork and beans.
Hey, you can make hot dogs and pork and beans taste real nice.
But that was one of his favorites.
Oh yeah, it was good. You had some fries with that and it's all right.
So we have Widowhood Real Talk with Tina because your dad is not here anymore.
Because you are a business person and you businessed grief.
What do you remember about when the family friend was driving you to where we were?
Just that there was a lot of uncertainty and that it just seemed...
Did I even talk to you and tell you why, or?
I don't remember much of that.
Okay.
I just remember being at work. Excuse me. I remember getting picked up from work, needing to go to Maryland or Virginia or Delaware.
Delaware.
Really quickly. And then being on the phone back and forth with you, you clearly being in a state of distress, and somebody that knows the appropriate terms for fashion items should talk to the tailor. And so then I felt like I knew more appropriate terms for medical conversation,
okay.
and that you did not. And if you did, your brain wasn't switching over to knowing said medical terms so that you could have the conversation with the doctor. And so then I was like, hand the phone to the doctor, because talking to you was fine, but playing telephone was not.
Okay.
And so then I pulled out terms, whether I knew them actually or whether I was just like, and did you try? And so I remember being frustrated at the doctor for feeling like though they weren't trying enough. But then them telling me that like at the end, he wasn't safe for transport. And so then even if they had wanted to, they could not. And it's still not feeling like it was enough. Okay. And that's how I felt. It doesn't matter if it was right or wrong, or clearly I have no medical training. It didn't feel like they did enough. And
it wouldn't have ever felt like it was enough.
Maybe, I don't know. Time machine. Build a time machine and transport and build a portal, or get me some medical intervention from the year 4000 where they just press a button and you get a new heart. So that's what it felt like. I don't remember feeling. Not that I wasn't sad, but I felt more like damage control. Like I didn't break down until later that evening.
So when you entered the hospital,
by then it was already.
But did
like,
you know
called.
when you came into the hospital? Did you know that?
I think you had told me. I think while we were on the phone at a certain point, the doctors were basically like, "It's done," and then you had told me, like, it was all collective. Between the doctor, you and me, the information was passed. Because then I started calling everyone else. I started calling godparents and then close family friends and letting them know that, like, there's nothing more that anyone can do. And so I'd already knew what...
But he hadn't passed yet.
He had.
Oh,
yeah.
Okay.
Like, by that time, it was already done. And so then... Like,
I didn't think you knew until you got into the hospital. I don't remember the conversation.
Yes, because I started calling everyone, telling them that, like, he's dead. Like, there's nothing else that can be done. And so, because, like, I remember godmother's, like...
Auntie Kim?
Yeah, I remember Auntie Kim's scream. So, like...
Really?
Yeah. And then having to call another set of family
Auntie
friends.
Jerry or...
I don't remember exactly the names, but I called the list.
Okay.
I called the list of the normal people I would have called for something like this.
Right.
And so, yeah, by the time we got to the hospital, yeah, it was already... That was it. And then you were already there and clearly in a state of distress and crying. And I remember you talking to the nurse, and the nurse... You telling the nurse the order of things that need to happen next, and then the nurse trying to be like, but ma'am, you can do this later. And then I remember pulling the nurse to the side and telling him that, hello, obviously you don't know us. Obviously you don't know my mom. She needs control right now, and you just have to give that to her. It doesn't matter if it seems normal. It probably doesn't. And it's probably not the typical way that somebody would process being super sad and grieving right now. But she needs this element of control.
I never knew you had a conversation with the nurse. Okay.
Yes. So
I think I was trying to make a decision where your dad's body was going to go, the funeral home, and just the things that needed to happen next.
Right. Most people just stay crying. Probably because they're in the state that they would have already had to deal with everything, and that complicated things. I do remember you saying, we are not from here. His body needs to be transported, and...
That was important to me.
Right. And
because...
but like, fact, important to you. Fact, his body cannot stay there. Most people are just still sad. And so then instead of, like, you showing the typical or normal, like, screaming, crying, trying to rip the paint off the walls, sad.
Oh, I did that before you got there.
You went into, but most, like, I don't know how way to phrase it to you. People would have done that longer.
Okay. So
then, like, you did not. Whatever that nurse is used to seeing people die. That nurse is used to seeing family members see their family members die. and seeing the time for which to ask legal transport questions probably being the next day.
Okay, so let me explain this. I was there when your dad died. I was in the waiting room, and then I asked to see him immediately, and they said we need to clean him up, and that took way too long. They finally bring me into the room where your dad is, and I lost my whole damn mind.
Right.
I was on the table laying next to your dad, rubbing his nose because I remember them having a Band-Aid on it because that's where he fell. I was on the floor, beating the floor. I was screaming and doing all of that. And I remember the nurse coming in and saying, your daughter has just entered the hospital. That they told me when you came in, and I started trying to get my composure together. Even though you would see me crying,
But how long was all that? Because
probably an hour or so.
Right.
I mean,
an hour.
But I have no concept of time.
Right.
But I know I was beating that floor, and then when you came up, I was like, okay,
I need to in the hallway.
I need to get myself together.
But just
so my daughter doesn't have to worry about me, and she can feel how she feels.
Everything that you're saying still confirms the fact that, like I said.
No, I was intentional.
Right. But like I said, that's why I had to talk to the nurse, because you flipped a switch. All the stuff that you're saying.
Yeah, Army Tina needed to.
Yeah, like
we needed
all the stuff that you're saying is true. It does not change the fact that you flipped a switch. You went from being yourself in a very appropriate, this is how I'm super sad right now. Then you went, oh, that's crazy. My daughter's going to be here. Flipped that switch to then have your composure to talk to me. Then flipped another switch when you needed to have your composure to talk to the nurse. Most people wait till the next day. But instead, and you're not going to probably hear it the way that I mean it, you rush the timeline. You rush the timeline because you probably didn't want to be in that state anymore.
No,
you rushed the
I didn't want. Hold on. When you say state, I didn't want to be
physical state of Delaware.
Correct.
Yes.
No, I was not state of mind.
No,
right.
This happened. That's effing crazy. I need to leave the state of Delaware, and so then
yes.
You flipped another switch. Leave state of Delaware. Go back to Pennsylvania. Talk to humans. Checklists occurred.
So in my mind, it was like, yeah. I don't want to come back here tomorrow.
Exactly.
I don't want to be talking to y'all.
And a lot of people would have. If you would have had a poll, if your spouse died today in a different state, would you have tried to take care of everything that evening or come back tomorrow? And honestly, I wonder what the poll answer would have been for 100 people. And you and the other 12 would have been take care of it right then and there. And that's probably why that nurse was like, ma'am, you can deal with this later, because he saw everybody else come back the next day. And that's why I had to take him.
It was a male nurse, too.
And that's why I had to take him to the side and be like, hello, you don't know us. Please allow her to have control so that she may be all right. Everything that I said was true. Everything that you said in your words to confirm what I said, I still said the same thing.
You did. I did not. They were like, well, you can take care. I'm like, when is later? Because in my mind.
You wanted it over.
No. I don't. Maybe that's it. I wanted it over, but I wasn't trying to make a phone call. I wasn't going to leave that state and know my husband's body was not taken care of.
Checklist. You say all the fancy Tina Fornwald terms you want. That's what it was.
You win, but I definitely.
There's no winning. There's no winning.
You're right. That is accurate.
Accurate portrayal of events.
Accurate portrayal of events. Yeah. That.
So that's what I remember about the drive. I remember probably not being as sad as I could have wanted to be in expression until later, later that evening when I was just able to go to bed. But yeah, in the drive down, it was more just coming to terms and then taking care of you, whether you subsiding your emotions or not, taking care of you, and then you taking care of me to take care of you, to take care of us, and then going to the hotel to sleep, and then having breakfast in the morning.
At the same place where your dad had eaten.
Yeah. And then everyone just on the road again. Just on the road and going back to Pennsylvania. So that's what I remember. Yeah.
What do you remember about returning to Pennsylvania?
It was a long drive. And then I remember having to go to the bathroom really bad. There wasn't anything special about the drive back.
What about when we got back home and your brother came and people were in the house?
There's like that weird thing where it's a common phrase, American, where it's like, we only get together when someone dies. And
But we had bonfires.
right. And so it's just like, yeah, you can definitely judge the American grieving process, and I judge it too. I think for the items that we've instilled or incorporated into the American grieving process, when you have the opportunity to have family around you, I think we did a good job there. I think we have our people. I didn't want people to leave. Like when they were there for so long, I was like, well, this is all your homes. You all get to stay now. This is it. We're a commune. Like, someone go pick the cherries. Like, Albert, you're behind on planting this year's apples. Like, so that's how it felt. I didn't want anyone to leave. I wanted that feeling of being taken care of, both physically and emotionally, to stay. Because if we're gonna lose one of our members, then that means that we have to stay, so that everybody's super close. So that's how I felt. I felt the love. I felt camaraderie is just another way of love, but the love and friendship, that was all. And then, don't leave me.
It is hard when everybody else has to go back to their own life and you are stuck in that space. People look at me now and feel like, wow, you must have handled grieving perfectly. Like, you look perfectly fine. And what would you want to tell them about your grieving mother's mental state?
I think that's private. I think that your sad is your sad.
But how did it manifest in different things? Trying to talk to me, being in the car with me, or
I wouldn't have said that was your grieving mental state. I didn't know that that's what it was, so I can't.
You were afraid to be in the car with me.
Yeah, that's not.
You were afraid. I was moving. I was missing exits.
It upped it. Peace, fear, increased fear. Nothing changed. So yeah. Yeah, there wasn't. You were sad. You're a little bit more short. You wanted things like this, even with planning the funeral. I guess a person could have taken more time to plan, and I felt like we did that very quickly.
Really?
Yeah. I remember you telling me go design the urn, and then you getting upset with me that I had asked you another question, either related or unrelated to designing the urn.
So we went to the funeral home first. Uncle Jesse went there with us, family friend, your brother and I, and made decisions there.
You remember that? I do not.
Okay. And
what does that have to do with the urn?
Because we decided on the urn afterwards, and then you did that when we got home, I thought.
I guess we're going to have two different memories on the process, but either way, I remember something related to the urn, me asking you a question about the urn or something else, and then you just getting mad at me all within that timeline that you would ask me to go design the urn. And then I remember being very upset and going to my room to go design an urn.
So I was short and punchy.
Yeah. Before, in the before times, you seem to have entertained my questions more.
That's fair. That's fair.
Yeah.
So that's something to consider. So do you think how you grieved your dad's loss, how your brother did, and myself were different or the same?
Different. There would be no way it would be the same.
How do you manage the difference of that when we're all grieving the same person?
Well, same person, different title.
Okay.
So, that to you is your husband. And, you guys knew each other longer together than without. For both Alex and I, we've known him all our lives. And him knowing us all of our lives. And so then Alex knowing him for a shorter amount of time than me, and yeah, me having more time just because I was older. But as far as the consistent amount of time, I mean, you'd have to break that down into minutes because daddy worked on the road.
Oh, so the amount Dad was traveling
Right.
and time you had with him versus your brother because.
I mean, yeah, I'm the eldest, and obviously I'm going to have, more pictures in terms of a timeline aspect, but I also stole my pictures. So
What?
daddy didn't like pictures, so I would just come up to him and just
Oh,
take forced photos. And,
right.
yeah. Daughter privilege. And so there's, yeah, same person, different title. So you're going to grieve differently.
I think sometimes
you know a person differently in that aspect.
I ask that question because sometimes families struggle with how everybody grieves differently, and people get frustrated or argue with people because their grief manifests differently than somebody else's.
I mean, if you're saying like, because to me that translates to like the stereotypical like Joe is crying all the time and can't do Christmas anymore because he's always sad about Sally, but then but Kevin laughs, and so then Kevin laughs to remember Sally because Sally was funny. Like if you're talking about like that difference of like how the outward expression of the grief is, I mean, yes, we all grieve differently. You started a nonprofit to help others grieve and grieve differently and to show that they weren't alone. Me, I helped facilitate you and said nonprofit. Whether or not that is a form of my grief, I don't know. A therapist will have fun dissecting that.
Do you see a therapist?
Not for this, and that's private.
Okay.
HIPAA. And so, so yeah.
This is what happens when you have a conversation with your daughter.
You asked me. And so, yeah, like I'm not over here judging either one of us and being like, how dare you? So I think, like I said, you having the nonprofit is very on brand. If you didn't have the nonprofit, I don't know, I guess I'd just be waiting until you did have it. I mean, like, none of this is surprising. Like, this is not surprising in how you're grieving. I think Alex is grieving stereotypically XY, and it's once again, it's on brand. I mean, it would probably be beneficial for him, in my own older sister judgment, for him to, process differently, but then also in my own judgment, it'd probably be better for me to process differently. But I don't sit back and go like, you're not sad because you ate mac and cheese today. Like, that was daddy's favorite. How dare you? And not cry over it. Like, I think we all have our different ways over it.
Have you ever thought about how it would look different if I passed versus your dad?
Yeah, the crosses one's mind.
What did that look like to you?
I feel like I don't think I would have left Pennsylvania as quickly. I mean, you told me I was forbidden to stay, so that probably helped.
In the hospital.
Like.
So let's back up to that.
Goodness gracious.
We are standing there next to your
I think it was the first thing you said to me. Not, hi, how are you? I love you. Okay, cool, you're safe. I think you were holding me to some capacity, whether shoulders or face. And you were like, you're still going. You're still leaving in May. And I was like, yes.
And this is to go into the United States Navy.
Sure.
It wasn't like you were going on vacation.
Ooh, snobby. And so
but do you know why that was?
We don't have to get into it. I can imagine feelings of, so like I said, so that I don't get stuck or so I don't stay. And, the Navy timeline, that's a different conversation.
No, but it was the idea of your dad and I have lived our lives. And I didn't want you to stop your future to start doing something to take care of me and then be in this place. But you feel like if it was your dad, you would have. Why?
Stereotypical
Okay.
stuff. I mean, I don't know, when you left to go to Iraq, you guys had to figure out who's going to do all the finances differently.
Okay.
And you being here, I mean, those are your jobs. So I don't need to talk to the person whose job it is on how to settle estates. We would have had to find the paperwork to settle the estates with Daddy. I don't think he knew. And even if they were clearly color-coded, we would have still had to find
everything was downstairs in the filing cabinet in the basement.
I mean, I guess, yeah. And so then still would have had to find it. And so then, I mean, yeah, organized, but still not where, I don't know where. It's not like you left a treasure map as soon as, its expiration hits. So there's that. But, and that's just maybe because, like, we didn't talk about it. Obviously, we talk about death more. I mean, we have regular check-ins with that.
Okay, talking about death.
Mm-hmm. The legal aspect, not so much the emotional side.
I often tell people that your dad talked about leaving this world.
Okay, maybe you two talked about it, but it's not like you told us, like, hello, if you two become orphans, this is where the paperwork is.
No. Did you hear conversations about your dad talking about not being in this world? Or what did you from?
It was mostly that you were supposed to have artifacts of his body. So, you mean, there's that.
Diamond earrings.
Diamond
the
earrings.
man asked for his ashes to be turned into diamond earrings. And I asked about that at the funeral home. I was like all of a sudden afraid that I needed to have answers for this. Yeah. So he asked for ashes. But did you hear your dad talk about he didn't think he would live long and what he wanted for me in life?
I don't remember it as clearly as...
Are you cold? Would you like some of my house coat?
And I don't remember it as clearly as that. I think I remember it more in like a passive state where it's like we all talked about it. So it's a collective hive mind memory.
Okay.
Not so much that like it's organic on my own. So it's not unfamiliar to me that you're mentioning that. I just remember more of him saying the whole carbon diamond thing for what he wanted for his ashes. I remember him saying something along the lines of he didn't want bugs crawling on him when he was dead. And then he wanted to use the ashes to speed up the process for however they make diamonds, the carbon stuff.
Right.
And then I remember him making a joke saying like, yeah, and then that way I can be earrings and beyond mom's ear and like whisper from the beyond and be like, that's a good one. You should pick him. So, I mean, have contingency plans, I guess. You guys may not have agreed on how to spend your free time, but, you like to plan, and apparently he did too in weird ways. So, find the love.
Your dad's funeral.
It was actually beautiful.
Go ahead.
Finish the question, but...
No, what do you remember about your dad's funeral and standing in line and people coming? Whichever one of those you want to share about.
So, Daddy's funeral as a whole was beautiful. Like... I don't know if we recorded it or if it got recorded from start to finish, but it was like something that you could watch back over again to be sad and to grieve and to also feel the love. Because, I mean, for us and how we believe, it was called a homegoing service and very much felt like that. Like it somber in the fact that the event occurred, but nice that we have like those systems in place to facilitate the occurrence.
Okay.
As far as the standing in line, it just felt appropriate. It felt like the normal thing that I've seen be done.
I did not want to do that.
You really didn't.
I did not want to stand in line and hear all these people talk, but I could not let my children stand there and do it without me.
So, I mean, like, it was, I don't know, it was just normal. It was like one of those things where it's like, yeah, you maybe not want to, but it's what you do. And so then, like, it worked for us. Like, I don't know. I look back on it, I remember standing next to you and Alex, and I remember at one time, like, we had let out a small laugh just because, like, it was just, like, something was still funny.
And it was the people that came in the suit that we didn't.
We don't talk about that.
Okay.
And so then, but...
There was something funny there.
There was something funny there. But it's like, yeah, so it's just, like, the three of us being there, like, I think it was appropriate. Like, it was necessary. It was appropriate. And then, like, I mean, the people that came up to us, besides those people, it was all people that we knew. Like, it was the time for them to be sorry if they felt sorry and if not, like, sorry for us.
Okay.
And, I mean, if you take that away from others, then, like, not that you circumvent the whole grieving process, but if you have people that genuinely care about you, then, you should let them care about you.
That's fair. When people genuinely care about you, let them care about you.
Yeah.
So we have your dad's service. Mm-hmm. What did communication look like from me after that?
If it was poor, I don't remember it. in a way that that lingers with me now.
Really, it
Yeah.
seemed like I felt like I was AWOL, and I had to apologize to you and your brother for not
You
being.
did apologize,
But
but
you didn't. You feel like it was unnecessary.
I accepted it because it was a fact, but not that it was something that I was harboring where I was like, I cannot wait till she reads the pamphlet of how she's sorry. Like, yeah, I wasn't hell-bent.
We've been watching Bridgerton.
I say this all the time. But yeah, I wasn't hell-bent on needing an apology. When you gave it,
But you noticed the absence in the.
yeah, I mean, you were different. You were
Okay.
different, you were sad. I mean,
I think I'm forever different.
your timeline, yeah.
So your dad said, I want to be on her ear and let her know if that's a good guy or a bad guy.
Mm-hmm.
I did date after your dad passed.
Mm-hmm.
What do you think of that?
That it was gonna happen.
Really?
I mean, I don't think we discussed you doing so, but I don't really have a way to answer this question. Like,
You thought it was inevitably something that would happen,
like
or
I didn't think that you would be air quote alone for like again like forever after
Really?
the
Okay.
fact. Yeah, I am not surprised at the fact that you had dated.
okay?
It was just that you were safe in doing so.
Oh, it wasn't the fact that I was dating. It was I going to be safe in dating?
Yeah, like did you think that I was upset this whole time?
No, I'm just. This is a conversation.
Oh, yeah, no, I have no thoughts about it that are profound because it wasn't something that was peculiar to me.
Okay, it was something you already forced. Okay, so if you met somebody, another girl, and she's talking about her mom was widowed and now her mom's dating, and she's mad because I thought she loved my dad and now she's dating again. From your lived experience, what would you say?
Well, it would matter the age of the person, so that if they're exactly my age,
Mm-hmm.
if they're mad, they're mad. I mean, I think they need to acknowledge more of why they're mad. If it's the scenario that you set up where it's like, well, they wouldn't do this if they loved my dad.
Right.
I don't think that that's. I think they're angry at the wrong thing, you know? And if they truly think that's because their mother doesn't love their dad, they would have to, if they're going to come up to me and say that, I would hope that they know me enough to respect my honest answer. If it's just some random person who's having a really bad day.
No, I want the honest answer. The person you know.
You
and
know?
They said, yeah.
I don't think I think that they're angry at the wrong thing. And I know because I've had a similar interaction with a child. So, for anonymity, I think that's the right word for privacy. So, there's a child. They've known me, or I've known them since they were a fetus. And so then they had saw me with my partner at the time, and we weren't doing anything crazy, we were just on the swings. And then they came up to us, and the child asks me, "Are you two dating?" And then I answer the child, and I say yes. And then the child walks away, like so angry, like very, very angry. And so then, like I said, I've known this child since they were a fetus. And I go up to them, and I value being eye level with small humans. And so then I was just like, what is wrong? Because the way that you just had your emotions, that's fine, but I don't think you're actually angry with me. And so then they were like, my mom is dating somebody, and I don't like it when they kiss. And I was like, okay, that is fair. And then through talking with the small child about why they didn't like the fact that their mom was kissing the person that they were dating, they had in their perception and in their mind had translated that like the kiss meant love. And then if you are going to take this small child and, you know, assign them emotions, but be like, okay, possessive possibly over their parents' love and their primary parents' love, they may think that then there's not enough love to go to them.
Okay.
And so then obviously we know that. And at the time, yes, I was an adult. And I knew that obviously the mother, you know, having a boyfriend or whatever and kissing them didn't mean that she no longer loved her child. But that's how the child interpreted it. And so then I was glad that the child obviously doesn't have all these complex way to phrase emotions. They had the very rudimentary, raw way that it made them feel.
Okay.
And so then if it was another person who was my age and they were experiencing the same thing where it was just like, oh, like my mom's dating, that means she doesn't love my father. I don't think you're actually upset with that. I think you're upset at something deeper. That's how I would take it. And then we would have to have the conversation and dive deeper into that.
To find out what they're really
to find out
upset
what they're really upset about.
Okay. So the idea that somebody would get married or date again seemed logical to you.
Yeah, I'm not surprised.
Okay. What do you think about me being married now?
As long as you're happy.
Okay.
As long as you're happy.
Do you remember asking me what I was looking for in dating compared to what did I tell you for that answer?
I do not remember the fine details of what your criteria was. Probably just more the fact that, same thing, you wanted to feel safe and loved.
Okay.
You probably obviously remember that conversation more because it directly involved your future decisions.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't remember much like the fine details about it. Just safe and happy.
Okay. What did you think about? So in your mom, I'm sorry, you already said I expected you to have a You expect me to have a nonprofit? Or you just expect me to be doing something with grieving?
Both.
Really? Why?
Non-profit is probably a bit more legal and exact. As far as you just don't sit still. You would not if there's literally a competition where it's called like the blank stare or the do nothing competition and the participants literally just stare off into emptiness. You would lose. You would lose so bad they would think that you sat down accidentally and then got up. Yeah, there's those memes on Facebook where it's you get $5 million if you tell one of your friends or family members to be at this restaurant at this time, but they're gonna be late. Who are you gonna call to tell them to be at the restaurant so that you get $5 million? If there's the equivalent where it's you need somebody who can't sit still to write a dissertation, who are you gonna? I'm calling you. You're not. You don't sit still with normal things like grief. Instead of thinking only about your own grief, you then thought about the world's grief. And we're how can we all process this better? And then creates a nonprofit to let people know that they're not alone and that they can process grief better. And I don't say that jokingly, I say that as a fact, but with some humor applied because know thyself. Know thy mother. Are you surprised? Because I'm not surprised.
Well, I could have had a nonprofit on helping people in the military, veterans. I could have had a nonprofit helping people, breast cancer survivors. What made you think this was going to be the nonprofit?
Who says you're not done with those two? You have time.
You have time.
Yeah, this is just the first one. You foot in toe in water. If you do those other two, once again, not surprised. There's that. It's more used in a bad term where it's I'm disappointed but not surprised. Well, this is just I'm underwhelmed and not surprised.
You were sitting here waiting for something that.
I just not surprised.
Okay.
It's if I told you, yeah, It's if you and I. Excuse me. Okay, it's if you lived close to me, right? We lived close to each other. And we were we're going to go mini golfing. And an hour before we have to go mini golfing, I call and tell you I'm running late. And then you go, that's why I haven't gotten ready yet. And then I call you 30 minutes before we're supposed to be there. And I tell you I have an upset stomach. And then you're going to go I'm getting ready in 15 minutes. I'll see you there. As much as you told me what time to be there, you probably had little faith. Yeah. You probably had little faith for me to be on time. And then
your words, not mine.
That's fine. And so then another way of that would be I told you that you told me a time to be somewhere, and then I was just like, okay, cool. And then I got there, you know, 30 minutes late from that time, and you told me our reservation wasn't actually until like 45 minutes from now. Like, which is fine because I tell people to lie to me when I need to be somewhere on time. So once again, not surprised, expected. So you have expected and not surprised, and then you have on brand and not surprised, and that's what yours would have been. Long story. On brand and not surprised for you.
Okay.
You're not original. You're
Wow. Huh.
no, you're originally you. You're fine. You're fine.
I was looking at. Okay.
You're on brand and not surprised.
Do you think I processed your dad's absence in my own grief?
Yeah, I mean, like, what do you mean? I think that you're always grieving.
What does that mean? Because somebody would think, somebody would think,
Like,
well,
what,
she's
grief
got.
has a timeline?
No, somebody would think, oh, she's gotten remarried, she's happy, everything is perfect.
Both can be true.
What does that mean?
Both, I mean, I use both can be true in everything. So, for this, I would hope, yes, you are happy by yourself and through being with a partner and through being married. Yes, you are grieving for the deaths that have occurred to you for the people that you have known. You basically asked me, can one be grieving and happy? And
Okay.
I think both can be true.
When somebody asks you, you said I'm always grieving.
Well, yeah, I think anyone who's lost somebody is always grieving.
But some people would think, well, she's remarried, she's got this nonprofit, she's happy, everything is fine now. What would you say to that?
Are you currently grieving? Like, what do you... Congratulations that you would not. That doesn't mean that somebody else is not. Like, that's... I don't know what that means.
Because some people think that she's fine now, it's over, and she's not grieving anymore.
And they don't know you well enough to assume if they can't ask you.
But I think that's an assumption to know for anybody that's grieving, that this is not something that's just over.
If somebody told me that they lost a child 12 years ago, and if person A said they lost a child 12 years ago, and if person B said that they lost a family member 18 years ago, and if, person C said that they lost their spouse, 85 years ago, they were only married for 3 days, then they did. Then they did, and whether they know it or not, they're probably still grieving. They probably commit actions now that are different and would not have occurred if the death did not happen.
How has your dad's death impacted you living?
I talk about death more in terms of it's going to happen, and I'm kind of lazy on it, but I still make strides towards protecting my legal areas of death, whether that be how accounts have to be settled upon death of a person, so making sure that those are taken care of, that my beneficiaries are established, that I just talk about it. I don't know if it's affected me in some grand way, but just that I don't shy away from the conversation of death, especially in the financial and legal aspect. It is something to be talked about.
What does your grief look like when it manifests really heavy?
Cry. Like if I'm experiencing an episode where it's like it's outward and stereotypical, cry, write poetry, write songs. If I'm just existing and the grief is constant and it's existing in my world, the legal and financial aspect where I make sure that I'm doing what I can to be set up.
Are there any dates or timelines that are more difficult for you?
My body knows. My mind, not so much in terms of the, like, where it's like, oh, well, like, it's July 3rd, like, time to be sad. Like, it's more just like, oh, am I feeling sad at this time? And then I recognize what time it is, and, it's probably because of the grief.
Is it your dad's birthday?
You wanted the exact times?
Like, what are the triggering times?
Holidays and birthdays.
Okay, his birthday, and then, like, Christmas?
Yeah.
Okay.
Holidays and birthday.
And the body knows. It's not like you're actively thinking about it.
Yeah, no, once I recognize that I am overly sad, I then see what day of the month and year it is, and then I go, oh, okay, that's expected.
Wow, that's important for people to know. That
I
the
thought,
body will just start letting you know, even subconsciously, if you're trying to like, I'm not gonna be sad about this.
it'll happen. It's the ball in the box effect.
I'm gonna push on. Okay. Any questions of me?
Not this time.
Really?
My people will get back to you on questions.
Oh my gosh. Was this as hard as you thought it was gonna be?
Super painful. I'm gonna have to decompress later. I'm gonna have to watch so much TV. And less hard than I thought. I thought I was gonna cry more. Maybe I'll cry later. Scheduled quarterly cry. But I guess I hope it helps someone. I mean, you can be sad and have a conversation in the same time. You can, yeah.
Okay. What are some things that you think people like? Okay, some people see me on social media, and that's all that they think it is, and I'm doing TikToks
Do they really?
and I'm just doing videos. What are some things that people really should know about what I'm doing?
She bullies us in emails.
Who is us?
The board. No. We have emails we have to tend to. So yeah, I mean, we have emails, we have meetings, we have nonprofit like events that we're filtering and having to, say yay or nay to, like we're in Rome, and have to items and criteria to decide on. I mean, I don't really think anyone knows that how, like, maybe that's why you put so much intention into saying that it's a nonprofit and so that they know in the videos. I don't think it's an aspect people actually care about. Because I mean, I don't think anyone would think to all the words that I'm thinking of are usually deal with business, but I mean, okay, yes, there are organizations that deal with the grief of a person.
Mental health, mental wellness becomes a big thing. When you take
No. You're going way off on what I
Okay.
mean. Like, there's cancer organizations because people have lost their family to cancer. There's scholarships set up because so and so, like, person who died was really into the cello, so then their family started a music organization. Like, mental health is an aspect of it, but why you did this, you were sad, you knew others were sad, you make groups so that others know that it's okay to be sad. Like, that's the rudimentary, like, raw way to talk about it. You created it into something that is legal and official, but the core of why you did so was so that it's okay, others know that it's okay to be sad. At least that's what I got from it.
Okay. No, that is. And I think the idea that it's a real board, there's meetings, there's events.
Yeah, I don't, no one, the way that you're asking the question is though people would care. Probably people don't care because they don't know.
So how can I make them care more?
You can't. Yeah, like you're, like, I don't, the way that you're asking the question, maybe I'm not the right person to answer, but you're like, what would you say to people that think that it's just me on social media? I don't think, people don't know that. Like, they probably are like on, like, there's a lot of pages where it's like a widow who lost like somebody who lost a spouse, and they just make dark humor content. So it's like, you have the podcasts, when people see those, you have the humorous ones, you have, like, your videos range. And so then if you're talking, like, unless I see a video or like a quote where somebody's like, wow, like, you do a really good job at this all by yourself, this is so cool, then yes, you can make a response video to that and be like, actually, there's a board, this is legal, we are a 501c3. Like, once again, you're thinking about it too real than somebody else who's just watching a TikTok video. Like, they're gonna go, oh, okay, grieving with Tina. Yeah, that was dark humor and that was humorous. Next video. Like, they're probably not thinking like, I wonder what board she has. Like, so, like, your question, though she's just a child. She's just a baby. Like, though innocent and, very sincere for what you know that you're doing, I don't think the average person, and I mean that, like, with confidence of everyone's intelligence, if you did a poll out of 100 people and you showed them one TikTok video that didn't mention that you had a 501c3, and you asked them, hey, do you like when people, oh gosh, okay, so this is really dark. No one's allowed to get offended. So there's this thing where people will be like, is this a Bible quote or is this a Game of Thrones quote? And then they have to choose, right? So then if you showed a bunch of people like your videos and was like, do you think this person has a 501c3 or is this just a video for like a dark humor page? You're going to get the answer that you get. So yeah, I don't know if that answers your question.
It does.
But I don't think people are thinking about, what does the board do?
Okay, that's fair. That is fair. We have talked
We do
about...
rabbit holes around here. Don't ask me a simple question.
You held up pretty good. I feel like this is a good conversation. I think we covered everything I wanted to.
Excellent.
So you want to close out the conversation?
With what?
Whatever you want to say.
I don't, like, pertaining to grief? And
Anything.
I don't.
Whatever.
Me? It's okay to be sad. It's okay to have your grief be tangible and physical are the words that came to mind, but I mean that in terms of creation. It's okay to have your grief create something, even if it's poor in terms of quality. Like, I write poetry and music. I can't sing, or at least when I do, it's off key. But that doesn't stop me from opening up my voice notes app and making a very poor song. Lyrically, this is the best grief there is in that song. But I mean, I can't play that back for people. But it's cathartic. It's okay to have the catharsis, and it doesn't have to be good. It just has to be honest, and you don't have to shy away from the authenticity of that. So that's what I would say. That it's okay to be sad. It's gonna happen. Process it. Be as healthy as you can about it. And if you what you're currently doing is unhealthy, ask for the best help that you can ask for.
Thank you, Catherine.
No, you're welcome,
Thank you, Widowhood.
Bye, Widowhood.
Thank you for spending another episode with Widowhood Real Talk. If you found the contents of today helpful, share the episode to anyone you know who may need it. Subscribe to the show and tune into Widowhood Real Talk each week. Then visit widowhood-realtalkwithtina.org to join the community and access additional resources. Remember, you are not alone in this journey.